Hey, creative. Are you ready to discuss profits, the money, the ways to make it happen? The Profitable Creative Podcast is for you, the creative, how you define it. Videographers, photographers, entrepreneurs, marketing agencies, you get it. CEO of Core Group and author Christian Brim interviews industry experts, creative entrepreneurs, and professionals alike who strive to be creative and make money at the same time. Sound like you? Tune in now. It's time for profit.
Welcome to another episode of The Profitable Creative, the only place on the interwebs where you will learn how to turn your passion into profit. I'm your host, Christian Brim. Special shout out to, I always have trouble with that special shout out to our one listener in Corvallis, Oregon, home of the Fighting Beavers. Joining me today is my guest, Bob Regnerus, otherwise known, I can't talk today, otherwise known as Coach Reg. Bob, welcome to the show.
I could do whatever. I'll help you out all I can, but I can't totally read your mind. But maybe if you need me to fill in a word for you, I'll try to do that.
No, it's not quite a speech impediment. It's close. So for the audience, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, the core of who I am is I'm a coach. I started coaching basketball 39 years ago, 16 years old, still in high school. I stood on the sidelines for the first time and coached fourth, fifth, and sixth graders at our local parish. And that was something that I continued for multiple seasons. I've coached travel ball, club ball, and I'm just recently retired from coaching high school basketball. I did that 12 years. I've coached boys, I've coached girls. I'll give you a little insight. Boys like to be pushed, girls like to be pulled. So if you're ever in a situation where you're a dad or a mom and they say, you got to come coach this team, if it's girls, know that they want to be nurtured, you want to pull them. If you're coaching boys, they want to be pushed, you push them. So that's my insight from the sidelines. I got dozens more. But on the entrepreneurial side, I've owned my own company for 27 years. I've actually owned multiple companies and been part of different experiences. My background is programming. I quickly shifted to marketing because my first website, when I built it in 1998, my client was like, how do I get traffic to this website? And I did what every good entrepreneur does, Christian. I said, I know how to do that. And I went and figured it out. That got me into marketing, got me into pay-per-click marketing. So I've written books on selling big ticket items. I wrote a book on Facebook advertising. I'm particularly skilled in paid advertising, not SEO and some of those other things. But I've been in marketing. I've been in leadership, now this is 4 decades. And so what I'm doing right now is probably the most exciting thing in my life, which is taking that coach role fully and taking it into the business and entrepreneurial world. So I coach entrepreneurs and athletes on how to take their business to the next level. And it all starts inside. And that's what we focus in on.
So a couple of follow-up questions. When you say you're coaching athletes, are they professional athletes or amateur?
I actually am forming a group of former professional athletes that have turned entrepreneur. And so I'm really excited about that. So it's like taking that athletic background and that entrepreneurial background and putting them together. So I also am working on a project to help professional athletes, college and Olympic athletes become mentors. And so I'm creating a marketplace for those athletes to mentor. My goal is a million kids by the year 2035.
That's awesome. So when you're coaching entrepreneurs, is it primarily the founder owner, or is it like their team?
I have a lot of colleagues that really enjoy coaching teams. I resonate mostly with CEO founders. So okay. I'm working at the highest level in an organization and working with that individual.
And at what point usually do these founders, CEOs come looking for you? At what stage of the journey?
It's middle stages, and I'm coaching people as young. I have a couple of people that I'm coaching in their 20s, but they're old souls, Christian. I can't really call them 20 somethings, but they're thinking about the things that people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s think about. And it's this. They get to a question where it's like, is this all there is? Or they take a look around at their life and go, wait a minute, everything that I wanted is not here, or it's passed me by. So a lot of entrepreneurs end up working so intently in their business that they don't realize that suddenly their relationships are at risk, their health is at risk, their legacy is at risk, and they're at a point where they're like, what the heck do I do? That's when they come looking. I'm working with a guy right now who's been so focused on creating income for his family. He's realized when he had no income, he was trying to generate income. Now that he has income, he realized like he still doesn't have a relationship with his wife, still doesn't have a relationship with his kids. That's the type of stuff that people will come knocking on my door to say, I need help. The other time, there's one other, Christian, if I wouldn't mind. I get a lot of people that come to me and they've got a very, very, very big idea. Like it's significant. Like I shared my mission to mentor 1 million kids through this network. Like it's an idea like that, where it's so big that no matter who they tell, like they're scared to tell their family, they're scared to tell like anybody because it's so big. They're afraid that like they're going to get shot down. I'm the type of person they could come to and share this big dream and actually have an opportunity to like hear the dream out loud and start to think about, is this particularly possible? So those are the two main situations that people come to me. It's like big problem in life because I've been too focused on one thing, or I've got this big thing that I want to do and I don't know what to do first.
Well, my follow-up question that is like, what are some of the, and I love those two categories there. What are some of the symptoms? Like you're the physician. What are some of the symptoms they present with?
Well, so let's talk about relationships. So I'm spending too much time on my business. My wife and I are fighting a lot. Why is that? My wife doesn't listen to me. My wife doesn't respect me. All I do is bring home, I'm working for them. I keep missing my kids' soccer games. My kids don't want to spend time with me. Okay. They think that the value in that relationship is that they bring home the money. But when you get down to it, this, if you're a parent, if you're married, it's not. Like, it's a part of it. Yeah, sure, you need income to survive, but really, what do they want? They want your attention. They want your time. They want that loving connection. So a symptom is my marriage is rocky. My relationship with my kids are rocky. The relationship with my business partner is rocky. Or they come in and they go, I had a health scare. I was sitting at my desk and the room started spinning, and I started breathing real heavy, and I was panicking. I was sweating. I realized I wasn't having a heart attack. I was having a panic attack. At that point, they go, okay, what's going on? Right? So there's always something that shows up in your reality that you have to do the detective work to backtrace to see what is causing that. Because, in fact, everything that's happening in your reality is caused and affected by you and you alone, nobody around you.
Yes. That comment alone, I could go on and talk about for a while. Because I think we tend to look to external factors first, and it'd be a person, it'd be your situation, but never, it certainly was with my case. Like the last place I looked was inside. And I think that's, just to put it in layman's terms, I'm not a psychologist, but and you're not either, but we've dealt with enough entrepreneurs that we understand the mindset. I think it's just ego. And it's to look inside yourself you have to diminish that ego and be vulnerable enough to look inside. Like your ego is trying to stay alive and protect itself and protect you, and digging under the surface and say, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting this way? Why am I talking this way? That's work.
Well, the entrepreneurial spirit is that there's no problem that can't be solved by hustle and grind. That's the belief, right?
Yes.
That's the culture. But here's the thing. You can't hustle and grind your way to a great marriage. You can't hustle and grind your way to being a great parent. And you can't necessarily hustle and grind to be healthy. Like at some point, you've got to get to the point where it's like, what's going on in here? So you can avoid it for only so long. Like, I've done it. You've done it. You avoided it for so long. I avoided it for about 20 years. And then when I turned 39, 40, that's when I had my panic attack. I'm sitting at my desk. I got off a call and the room was spinning. I was sweating. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Called my wife, think I'm having a heart attack. You go in there like, no, sir, you're not having a heart attack. You're having a panic attack. And then having to come to terms with, yes, I've caused this. I've put my nervous system in such disarray. I've gone to the limits. I have expended all my energy. I've done everything I could. I've come to the end of my rope. And here it's put me in this hospital bed. Now I'm forced to rest.
Yes.
All right. When I had a choice, I chose not to. When I had a choice, I chose not to. So now the choice was made for me. You are going to rest now.
I had the opportunity to hear you present at a mastermind group recently, and I believe, the way I remember it, we'll go with that, you spoke about how all actions come from beliefs. Like everything you do originates in a belief that you have. Is that a correct recount of what you said?
Yeah. So how did that land for you, Christian?
Well, it resonated very, very well with me because I'd done the work, and the way you presented it gave me some additional insight, and it was very helpful, and I really enjoyed it. But talk about that, what I think is a foundational piece, like the fact that what we say, what we do, is based upon beliefs that we have in our conscious and unconscious programming.
Yeah. And we could go really deep on this, but let's honor this for what it is. There are natural laws that we are all we adhere to by being born on this planet to this particular race. We are subject to natural and physical laws. So we have the law of gravity. We have the law of inertia. There is a law called cause and effect. And this has been proven scientifically that for every cause, there is an effect. Okay. So when you sit down and you bring awareness to something in your life that no longer serves you. So let's say one morning, finally, you look in the mirror and you say, shit, like, can you swear? I'm sorry.
Okay. Absolutely, you can.
Shit.
You're a coach. I would expect it.
So I don't like the way I look in this shirt. And you change the shirt and you go, I don't like the way I look in this shirt. And you're like, okay, I don't like the way I look. You can take responsibility for that and go, what caused this? The way to trace it back is to this. The effect is I am overweight and I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. You are going to trace that back to say, what actions are you taking that is causing this effect? Okay, my diet sucks, right? I'm not pushing the dessert menu away. I'm eating processed foods. I'm eating sugar. I'm smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I'm taking 2 beers after work. Like you can just say, like, go, oh, okay. Like I finally see that these decisions. Okay. So that action is leading to that result. But what is causing those actions? Well, my body is actually performing the action, but what is actually causing my body to produce the action that's producing the result I don't like. You would think, okay, it's my brain. But there's only a very small part of you that consciously does anything. We get up every morning, we brush our teeth, we eat breakfast, we drive to the office. All these things we do on autopilot. That is your subconscious mind that is actually doing all that. You don't consciously think about left, right, right? You're not thinking about that. So what is actually happening is that for you to remain sane and to remain grounded to this planet, you have this wonderful system called the subconscious that operates everything for you. It is the ultimate pattern repetition recognition system. You consciously think about something for a bit, you learn it, it goes into your subconscious, and then you do it. Now, what you don't realize are there are millions and millions of programs that are running concurrently in your subconscious at all times. The fact that I'm standing up giving this interview and speaking in the English language and moving my hands and taking a drink of water when I'm thirsty, all of this is happening on autopilot.
Right.
The behaviors that you are doing to produce this result, I am overweight and I don't like what I look like, is not what you are thinking. It's actually what you believe. There are programs that you are running that happen on autopilot that are happening subconsciously without you intervening that are causing this behavior. It is a belief. Believe me, it is a belief.
Yeah, and I think laid on top of that is some of let's call the beliefs the software.
Mm-hmm.
But then underneath the software, there's some hardware, some firmware that's built into your body that says sugar tastes good, fat tastes good. When I'm hungry, I need to eat. There's some hardwiring in there that contributes to it as well.
Yeah,
that may or may not be as easy to change.
Oh, beliefs and habits are at some point. Sometimes they're easy to change. Oftentimes they're very difficult to change. You think about if you've been executing a habit for 20, 30 years, like if you're a smoker, like it's not just that you're chemically addicted to nicotine. You are actually running a program, and smoking is doing incredible things for you that you are unaware of. It could be that like it's a stress reliever. It makes you feel important. That smoking break gets you away from the chaos of the family or the office for a while. There's a ritual to that.
Right.
You may have discovered that eating is a ritual for you, and that you have trained your body that once you eat a particular meal, that it needs like a scoop of ice cream in order for you to feel complete. And it does something to you chemically. It does something to you in your mind. Just as easy, you could reprogram yourself to say, like, I believe that I can survive on vegetables and tea and water and rice, which is something I've been doing for 2 months. Like I had a realization that the inflammation in my body was caused by my diet. And I had somebody tell me, like, if you want to change how you feel, you need to change this particular action. Well, I could start cooking differently, but I had a whole process of rewinding. What did I believe to be true about me? What did I believe to be true about eating? I had to stand and face all these beliefs and make new choices. I had to literally install new programs that allowed me to now on autopilot go downstairs for lunch and have rice and vegetables versus grabbing like a snack bar or something like that.
Yeah, and that whole mind-gut connection, I think I read somewhere that like 70% of the nerve connections in your body are between your brain and your digestive system.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a huge, people don't understand how much their diet affects their brain.
Yeah. And that's just health, Christian. But let's get back to our workaholic example. So if this particular dad and husband, and I'll just pick on the men because we're men, we're here, right?
That's easy.
Okay.
We're easy.
And yeah, we tend to be much stupider than our significant others. Okay. That's
simpler. I like simpler.
Okay. My wife is always right, in case she listens to this. So
Yes.
you may have this belief, okay? And this is we're not judging this belief, but your belief might be that it's my job to provide for the family. I have value when I generate income and bring income home. That is a belief.
Yes.
Okay. Now that may be partially true, but if you start to ignore the other beliefs that my children need money for them to respect me, when in fact they have a belief that I need my dad to read me a bedtime story, or your wife says I need to be on a date night for my husband to know, like, I need affection. Like, they have a different belief. If you're not addressing that core belief that I must work to generate money for them to love me, that is a belief. And you may say, oh, that's ridiculous, Bob. Like, no, when you sit down and actually process it, you get to those core beliefs. I mean,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of work on myself. I had a core belief running, and this is baseline. This is like OS. I am not worthy. Like, I have a core belief, a limiting sponsoring belief that I had been running for nearly 50 years. That is, I am not worthy. I had to process that thing.
Yeah.
I had to remove that thing. I had to make a different choice, that I had to replace it with a program that I am worthy.
Yes.
But we all have these things that are running under the surface, and they absolutely control and dominate our lives, and we aren't aware of it until we are.
I think a universal human belief, and it may manifest slightly differently, but I think there's a universal human belief that we are somehow incomplete, flawed, not sufficient. And it took me a while to figure this out. It took me a while to figure it out about myself, like that I actually felt that way, unworthy, incomplete, insufficient. And then it took me a little bit longer to realize that I wasn't special. Like, everybody feels that way. Like, it wasn't just my experiences that built up that belief. It was more fundamental than that. So let's pivot to the idea of money mindset, because in my book, I dedicate a whole chapter to the money mindset. So what, as you work with entrepreneurs, do you see some common beliefs that have to be unprogrammed?
Well, let's start with the big one. If people pay me money, I'm valuable. If people aren't paying money, I'm not valuable. Let's just start right there. Okay?
Yeah.
We are assigning value to ourselves based on the amount of money in our bank account. Now, we can judge that as positive or negative. Okay? We're not here to judge anybody. You have to decide if that's a useful belief for you or not. But I can tell you that working with people, and again, personal experience, right, is that when you equate your value to how much money people pay you, you are relying on outside forces to determine your worth. And so if you are at a dry spell in your business and you are not making money, you will go to the place where it's, I'm not valued. I am not valued. What does that do for you on a daily basis, and what does that do to your personal life?
Well, it exasperates the problem. For one thing, like if you're not valuable, you don't feel yourself valuable, then it's even harder to sell yourself, right? Like, I mean, how can I provide value if I don't think I am valuable?
100%.
I can think of one value that value, belief, personality trait. I'm not going to try and tease that out of which it is. That I struggled with until the last 18 months is that even beyond money, yes, I would agree. A lot of people have that belief that money equals personal value. But for me, it was the idea that I had to work hard to achieve what I wanted, to the extent that I would actually screw things up because I was working too much. It's kind of like, the chef keeps adding shit to the ingredients, and then it's like, this is awful. Like, at some point you're done. And but I was not comfortable with being done. And having value outside of producing something, whether it monetary or not.
Well, you just came up with number two. That was number two on my list.
Good.
Is I must work hard to generate money.
Mm.
Think about what that does for an entrepreneur. It makes it really hard to scale.
Yes.
Because quite often you become the roadblock.
Yes.
Right. You become the bottleneck. Yes. Because if I'm not working hard, then we're not making money. So you insert yourself at every part of your business.
Yes.
It's an awful, we say no judgment. Let's just say from personal experience, that's an awful place to be.
It's awful. I'll agree.
All right. My experience, your experiences, that's an awful place to be. That's a big deal, right? Now where does that come from, right? Where does that come from? It's really interesting to sit down with some of these things and trace back where did that belief start? A lot of it starts in our home.
Sure.
We watched our dad. All right. I grew up in a time when, women weren't working a lot. So our kids have different things. They could be dad or mom, but for a lot of people, it's like, I didn't see dad.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see dad. Worked really hard. Left before I woke up. Sometimes came home after I went to bed. Okay. Like it must be true that in order for you to be successful and make money, I need to work really hard, and I need to work long hours to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've decided it was that Puritan work ethic, and it's there's some overtly religious context to it of like, if you don't work, you don't eat. These are biblical principles. If you don't work, you don't eat. Idle hands are the work of the devil. That's not in the Bible, but it's a
might as well have been
belief. But yeah, and you nailed it with that. When you start a business, that belief may be beneficial to you. It may be helpful to you, right? But at some point you reach it where it becomes counterproductive. And that certainly happened with me. And it was a hard habit to break. Yeah. Very hard.
I want to make sure that I get this point across. A lot of what we're talking about is we're assigning good and bad to different actions and beliefs. But you said something that I want to piggyback off, which is this: beliefs and results serve us until they don't.
Yes.
And we
100%.
assign a judgment or a score to a particular belief based on the action and how we feel. So you're absolutely right, Christian. It may be acceptable. A belief of working hard to achieve success is a perfectly acceptable belief to have for a time until it's not, because you change along the way. And so a lot of us start off, we are on our own, we're working hard. Maybe we've met somebody, we get married, then it's two of us, and then kids come along. Like your life changes and you have to constantly evaluate your beliefs to say, does this fit anymore? I mean, you mentioned it, that Protestant work ethic, like work out your salvation with fear and trembling.
Right.
Sinners in the hands of an angry God. That's a whole podcast we could get into.
Yes.
That was programmed in me for 40 years until I determined that doesn't work for me anymore.
Right.
When you're constantly told that you're no good in the eyes of the person that created you, for me, that was devastating. I had to break of that. And again, it was useful for me to a point where it became no longer useful. That belief didn't serve me any well. It doesn't mean that belief is bad or good. It means it didn't serve me anymore.
Yes.
And so all of it, yeah.
Yes, and I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Most beliefs, unless you think killing kittens is a good thing, most beliefs are agnostic. They're neither good nor bad.
Yeah.
It's the question of, are you willing to lay that belief aside? Like, is it okay? And of course it's okay, because your belief is not who you are, right?
No.
It's not who you are. It's just something that you think. And okay, that doesn't work for me anymore. Can I set it aside? Now, that just saying that doesn't make it happen, because you're still going to try and run on that same track,
Right.
that same programming.
Right.
But just acknowledging it, that like, okay, this is a belief. It is separate from who I am. It is not serving me, and making the conscious decision to set it aside.
I will give you a very personal example of this. When I was in 7th grade, I don't know how old that makes me, probably 11 or 12 years old.
13, 12, okay. 12. We'll go with 12.
I got cut from the basketball team because I was a very short, asthmatic, unathletic kid at that age. Okay. But guess what that did to me? It formed a belief that said, okay, that coach determined that Bob was not going to be on this basketball team. What it drove me to do was, it actually drove me into coaching, because I wanted to be the one in control of the roster. Now, okay, now this is a really freaky thing to do, but when you sit down with a coach that can like pull this out of you, I realized like that drove me into coaching. Now, you and I are having a conversation because I went into coaching. I had 40 years of coaching, extremely rewarding. Like I've touched thousands of lives, and I'm going to touch 1,000 more. That drove me.
A million more.
But it drove me and it served me. But I had to start coaching from a standpoint years ago. It's not about Bobby defending and defending against getting cut from that team in 7th grade. It had to come from I had to be motivated by different things.
Yes.
We all have these stories, Christian. Like, when you really get honest and start to follow the thread all the way back to its source, when you get to the root, like you can't change the fruits until you change the roots. That was a root for me, and that freed me. It actually brought more joy to my coaching business, more joy to my coaching high school basketball, when I realized that I wasn't having to protect 11-year-old Bobby who got cut from that team. That's how deep this goes.
Yeah, because I think most of us think of coaches in terms of our athletic experiences, and I thought coaches were the ones with the answers. Like, they had more experience, they knew what to do, right? And so you go to a coach for them to tell you what to do, right?
Yeah.
But what I realized was, really great coaches, and I feel fortunate to have one, draw out what's already inside of you.
Yes.
Not to tell you this is the way you should do things, but to help you understand the answer that's already inside of you. Yeah. Not that coaches teaching skill aren't important. I mean, that is, but that's basic. Like, the next level is, how do you see what's blocking them from success and reflect it back to them?
Yeah, I mean, what you described is there's teaching, which is let me teach you a skill. It's classroom, it's instruction, it's hands-on. There's mentoring, which is what a lot of people may be confused with coaching. Mentoring is you hire or work with a mentor for them to share their experience with you. They don't do the thing for you. They don't teach you a skill, but they share their experience so that maybe if they spent 10,000 hours perfecting something, maybe you have to spend 1,000. All right.
Right.
What you described was very beautiful. And thank you for doing that. A coach doesn't mentor, doesn't teach. They draw out of that person what is inside of them. And a very gifted coach that takes you through a structured process will make that happen. Everybody, we can line up 1 million people and they would all have the same problem. There would be 1 million different ways for that problem to get solved.
Sure.
There is a right way for you to do something. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't model somebody else's behavior, but this is what has driven the marketing and personal development business for so long, is that they have trained people to believe that you just need the right coach and the right blueprint, and your life is going to be magnificent. That is a belief, that is a corporate belief that we bought into, that really is not serving people, because you can take these experiences, but you're going to have a personal way to achieve an outcome. And that's what makes you unique. So a great coach will draw out of you what it is that you are feeling led to do, the way you would solve a problem, the way you would approach a problem. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to connect with somebody. Maybe in that coaching session, you say, you know what, I really need to learn this skill. So you hire a teacher, or I need to find a mentor to help me get to this destination quicker. A coach will allow you to do that. And the fact that you've had that great experience is just really cool, Christian, because that's really the essence of what a good coach does, is it draws out what is right for you. And when you draw it out of yourself, you're more able and you're more willing to go for that solution versus something that is just plugged into you because it doesn't feel authentic to you.
Right. You own it. Like I remember, as good as my coach is, one time he asked me a question and I just sat there for about like 60 seconds because I really didn't know how to answer it. I was just kind of processing it. And then I started speaking, and it was, I don't remember the topic. I wish I did, but it was some deep insight that I realized from his question. And then I stopped talking, and he didn't say anything. He hadn't said anything for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then he comes back on the call, and he's like, "Oh my God, I accidentally pushed mute." and he's like, "And I'm so glad I did, because when you didn't speak, I had a follow-up question, but he didn't ask it because he was muted." Right. And so, when I coach people, I think there's this tendency to feel like I have to have the answers. I have to bring value. I have to solve this for them. Right. And the reality is that that's not the case. I mean, sure, you could have mentor, you could have experience, and you could teach them a skill. But if you're truly trying to coach, it's about asking the right questions and then shutting up.
Yeah. My core superpower is intuitive curiosity. And I didn't really realize that until within the last several years, which is what drove me into coaching. I've always had this ability to ask questions of people and hold a space for them to be honest with themselves. Mm-hmm. It's a really hard thing to market, to be honest, Christian, being a marketer myself. But the idea is what you explained there, holding a space for somebody to think.
Yeah.
What a gift to give somebody space to think. I love when I work with somebody and I'm on Zoom or I'm in person and they just look off into the horizon.
Yes.
That, to me, I've done my job, because when they do that, they're thinking.
Yes. Yes.
What a gift to give somebody. We spend so much time doing, we spend no time in our day thinking. Our minds are always racing. And for you to give somebody a gift of allowing them to think, what a great thing to give another human.
Yes. Bob, how can people find you to learn more about what you do and how to work with you?
I would love to work with anybody that's in a situation what you described. if you're working through a particular problem, or you've got an amazing opportunity ahead of you and you have no idea what chapter 1 looks like, I'd love to work with you. So 2 ways. I do these really cool 1-hour bespoke sessions called Spark Sessions. And it is a way for you inside of 1 hour to get a breakthrough. And I have a 100% success rate. You are guaranteed an aha moment in that session. They're called Spark Sessions. Sparksession.net is how you find that. If there's a bigger thing you're going for and you're interested in sitting down and working out, what is the vision of this? What is the mission of this? And working out these big ideas. If you go to thecoachreg.com, that'll take you back to my website. And I would invite you to consider a Spark Vision experience. That is an all-day experience where we sit down in a neutral location and just give you the chance to be uber creative, to dream and to map everything out. But in both cases, it's not about just creating the dream. It's what is the key next step. So many of us get stuck on what's next. And Christian, you got to experience this at the roundtable meeting, is we closed that meeting with everybody committing to a very simple 1 key next step. That quite often is what trips people up. So you will walk away, every experience you have with me, you will always walk away with what is the next key step to take. And it's going to be something simple. It's not going to be complicated.
I love it. We'll have those links in the show notes. Listeners, if you'd like what you heard, please rate the podcast, review the podcast, share the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, do something with the podcast. If you don't like what you heard, shoot us a message, tell us what you'd like to hear, and I'll replace Bob. Until then, ta-ta for now.